Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and welcome to my podcast, the Crystal Petry Podcast. We are in our third season, and today we are going to learn all about how to take a risk, pushing beyond our comfort zone, some things that may be uncomfortable to us, but also how to win in 16. And here to educate me and you, I have Dave Pygon. So, Dave, welcome to the podcast.
My Texas friend. It's an honor. It's an honor. Thank you for having me on, Crystal. You're a cool
You are
lady.
more than welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And I was on Dave's podcast a few days ago. So he's on my podcast today, and I appreciate you. I'm so excited to have you on and to learn from you, Dave.
Oh, vice versa, my friend. Thanks, Crystal. And thank you, audience.
Exactly. Okay, so my first question for you, Dave, what inspired you to focus on helping people reach their full potential, which I would assume is difficult?
Yes, this dates all the way back to playing sports back in the day, and I know you were a great athlete and probably still are. And I always just naturally kind of fell into, I don't want to say leadership, that's a little too strong of a term at a young age, but I gravitated to that stuff and I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed saying, hey, come on, let's go. I enjoyed hey, we can do this. And that led to being a captain. And I enjoy doing that. I always did. So in my professional career, I started out as an individual contributor. And then the more and more I got involved in training and supporting others and helping others, let's fast forward now 3 decades later. What I realized a lot of times when I go on these podcasts or read articles, people ask me, what's your purpose? And originally I used to say, I like to help people. And I realized that's not it. It's deeper than that. I like being a difference maker in people's worlds. And I just discovered that. And I think this is teachable moment one.
Okay.
My whole living, supporting, coaching, leading people for the last 2 decades. And I realized my purpose was wrong. Or at least I was articulating it wrong. Like, I'm helping people. And it was bigger than that. I really want to be a difference maker, community, world, and people.
Can being a difference maker with community, world, and people, it starts with people and then trickles up, I guess, right?
It can. And I'm not in a big enough position where the world is where I'm attacking. I look at transformation. When I name people today too, you don't have to like or dislike these people, but like an Elon Musk character, for instance, a transformational leader, whatever. Like, he's doing things, if you like or dislike, over the last years of transforming and changing the world. Zuckerberg, when he did Facebook, I mean, that changed. Those are disruptors. Like or dislike, that's what they are. I don't know if I'm in that position to do that, but I am at the ground level, having a position to be a difference maker in individual people's lives and professional organizations. So that can get there, but it starts at that grassroots level, which is what you and I do when we help people individually.
Absolutely. So, Dave, what would you say is some barriers that keep people from becoming the best versions of themselves?
Ooh. Okay, everybody, don't get mad at me when I answer this question. I love you all. Ourselves.
Is it us?
Well, yeah, and it's because we're, as much as the world is becoming AI and all that fun stuff, it's hard.
It is
scary. And we're still humans. That's where I was going with this. And being humans, we have feelings, we have emotions. Our past experiences tend to set up our beliefs, and our brain is there to protect us. I'm not a neuroscience person, even though I love that stuff and I love psychology. I love reading about that, and I'm not a psychologist either. But those things, our past experiences and our brain, which is built to protect us, if we're going to evolve, adapt, and change to be our best selves, we're usually going to get out of our comfort zone it's usually going to be somewhat painful, and we're going to have setbacks, and we're going to go backwards. By nature, most of us don't love that. So what do? We don't do it, or we don't do it as quickly as we could, or we start it and stop it and give up on it at times. Not everybody, but generally speaking, because growth is hard and learning can be hard. And I think the biggest barrier is us not jumping in saying, hey, I'm going to do this, and to get where I want to go, ultimately, I know it's going to be discomfort. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. And I might go a step or two backwards to get a step or two forward. And I might repeat that recipe over and over. And it takes resilience, grit, and a commitment. And sometimes with everything going on in our lives, we're just not willing to do that. So then we start building in excuses. And I'm going to raise my hand here because I did before I started my company. I was in corporate America, living a good life, leading teams, and I made every excuse why I didn't start my company, write my book, or do my podcast. Time, family, money, those are barriers. Those are self-inflicted barriers. Nobody put those upon me other than Dave.
Right. Okay, so I have two questions for you here, Dave. My first question is, what does a person's mindset, how does that affect whether I'm going to go forward, go backwards, or stay where I am? It's my first question. My second question, Dave, is, do you think that people go into new journeys, new opportunities, thinking like what you said, this is going to be painful, there's going to be discomfort, there's going to be challenges? Do people go into those things thinking that, or do they go in thinking this is going to be rainbows and strawberries?
Oh, that's a wonderful, wonderful second question and first question. So I'll take the first one first.
Okay.
I am all in on that mindset. In fact, the different programs and trainings and talks that I do with people, especially when I get asked back, or I do monthly or quarterly development trainings with organizations, I go, don't get mad at me, but almost every time I lead in with mindset. And I go to them, I go, if I can get your hearts in your minds for the next hour, 2 hours, 3, half hour, whatever our session is together, I need that. And for people to progress or to even just comprehend, their mindset has to be in the right place. I think mindset is everything. And sometimes people, when they hear me or who know me, think I immediately jump to positive mindset, optimism, which I know you, my friend, are very much like that. But I always tell people my secret power isn't that I just have a positive mindset. It's I just don't go to the negative mindset that often. And when I go there, I kick the tire of the car, get upset. And then what I do is I don't jump back right up to positive. And I think that's where some people get frustrated with people like you and I who believe this not living in a negative mindset. What I tell people is when things get, when we get the call when something bad happens to the kids or they do something wrong, we don't go from a negative mindset to say, oh, this is great. What we do though is we go to that neutral mindset. So I always communicate to people is I'm not asking you to be in that positive mindset when things get hard. What I'm saying is, hey, it's okay to get down to that negative, but just quickly get yourself as quick as you can to that neutral mindset so you can think better, process better, attack the problem better, and just have a much less emotional connection to this situation, whatever.
Absolutely.
To live in that. So I think the people who goes in the highs and the lows, that's a tough way to live and be successful on a day-to-day basis, that positive, negative mindset. I try to say, hey, I love being positive. When things get hard, though, I try to live more in that neutral of let's figure this out. Let me think about it so I don't say things that are ridiculous. But I think mindset's everything. I think a lot of times we live in a world of scarcity mindset, meaning we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have this, versus the abundant mindset is, yeah, I got enough. Is it perfect? No, but I have enough to be successful and to move forward. I'm just honing in on my wish list. And there's a difference between having enough to be successful and happy versus the wish list.
Absolutely. Okay. And the second question, do you think that when people are taking risk or a new job or stepping off like you did and starting your own company, that they go into it thinking, okay, this is going to be difficult. There are going to be challenges. It's going to be painful.
I I think everyone's different, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think people don't do it because they either know that and they don't want to go through that struggle, or two, people don't dive in because of the uncertainty and, for lack of a better word, the fear. It might not work. It might be way harder than I think it is. That I wanted to make sure I make that crystal clear on why a lot of us don't do things is we're afraid, the unknown. We'd rather stay in what we know so well, even though it sometimes is crazy. I read an article a while ago that the average person would rather stay with their boss, leader, manager, whatever you want to call them, who is not very good, but
Mm-hmm.
they know what they've got, versus getting the new one who potentially could be a really good leader, boss. They'd rather stick with what they know. I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think that's out of this world wrong. But they'd rather know the devil they know than the one they don't.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't know if that's healthy or good, because there's greatness out there, and if they would just be open to it. It's hard. Now, let's say these people who do jump in. I think there's probably a mixed bag. I think people do jump in and they're all excited and they can do this, which I believe that. I believe in positivity. I believe confidence. I'm not a big believer in self-deprecation. I think people have to believe. They have to visualize starting something new and say, I can see the end. I can picture it. I can taste it. I don't think people on average do that enough, especially when adversity hits, because it's going to hit no matter what you're changing. I don't care if it's as simple as the organization has decided to go to salesforce.com as their provider that they're going
Uh,
to use to inputting calls. And for some people, I always go, that's your Iron Man. That's hard for you. We shouldn't shy away from that. And we shouldn't say, yeah, not so sure I'm loving this. That's
mhm.
okay, because that might not be your thing, technology. And that involvement, your brain's going to start racing. It's going to be hard to learn it. It's going to cost me time. Could it hurt my effectiveness? I don't like it. Like, all those things are natural. What we're talking about, though, is if it's going to happen, you can go down that path, which I would argue is probably going to never get you where you could go. And it's the one thing that I don't love in life. All those things I just said are not fun
At all.
at all. Like, they're horrible. Instead of saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, Crystal, but I'm going to jump on your podcast today and let's go with it and see what happens. And let's live and learn. And you know what you might find is it wasn't that big of a deal. I think the people go into starting something new, oh, this is going to be easy, and that might be a little bit too overzealous for me.
Mhm.
Because I don't think anything's that easy, and I don't think anything's going to be sunshine and roses. Anything worthwhile I think, I'm sure you were raised similar. Like, anything worthwhile is going to take work, and it's going to take rolling up your sleeve, and it's going to take some pain.
Yes. And you know what, Dave, first of all, you said that so eloquently. I think that people talk themselves out of things and they make it way bigger or worse
Yeah.
than what it actually would be.
Yes.
And so a lot of times you go, you do the new job or whatever, and you're like, this is not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
So you always, build it up to be something, way worse than what it actually is. What are some strategies that you would give people to help them with that self-doubt and that negative talk?
Yes. First of all, they're fighting a little bit of science there, because our brain is built to protect us.
Mm-hmm.
We touch fire, your brain right away goes, oh, you're near fire.
Right.
The alarm goes off. I'm making it really basic and simplifying it there, but I think I'm trying to get in people's brains. Like, one of the jobs of the brain is to protect us. And the brain does not know the difference between a minor or a big. Both of them are a problem. So you have to know that going into anytime you're changing. Like, if you allow it, your brain's going to tell you stop, don't, whatever might come up in that situation based on what's going on. So I think knowing that and saying, hey, this is natural. I am not any different than Crystal in this regard. I think that's really, really helpful for people. Some people know that, some people don't. Two, I think people have to visualize the potential and what could happen. I think that is so powerful. I always think of, I'm always looking down the line. And again, I'm not saying you have to be a visionary that fly somebody to Mars. But what you do have to do is if you're doing something, saying, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is my end result. It's going to be functional, it's going to work, and I'm going to get this done. If you can picture that, I think the process that helps a little better as they're going through it is that visualization. I am a huge believer in self-talk. I can do this. I don't compare myself to others, but I always think, well, Crystal's doing it, then I should be able to do it too.
Yes.
There's something missing on my end. And I'm not comparing intellect. I'm not saying I'm as smart as Crystal, but I am saying what we're trying to do there. She was able to do it. So I probably can, but I've got to put my heart, my energy, and confidence that I can do it. And the other thing is, whatever we're doing, this is why I think inner circles are so critical. We need those inner circle of people in our lives who we can call and say, hey, I'm on a struggle boat right now. I'm going through a rough one on this. Help me, walk me through it. I can even think about the book when I had writer's block. And that is real, everybody. Like you get there, I used to have 5 to 8 in the morning as times I would write. And there'd be days I'd be sitting there and I had no idea what I was sitting there, nothing. And it hurt because I allocated that time. I was running the company and the podcast too. So it's not like I just had all the time in the day to, it's not
right.
So then what did I do? I doubled down. I put more pressure on myself, which that was worse because I said, I only got 3 hours. That's when you need that time to go to your inner circle and talk to them when things get hard. That's why I don't believe people that it's great for the isolationists out there that they don't want to call anybody. They want to do everything on their own. I just feel like I'm better when I can call up my friend Crystal and say, hey, here's what I'm struggling with. And conversely, I think it's great to call and say, hey, I think I got a really good idea that I'm doing. Tell me. And you might go, ooh, I got a better idea.
Yes. And in this world that we're living in, Dave, in 2025, I don't think that there is anything that people can do all by themselves.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
Yeah, you absolutely need someone else to help. So we've been talking a lot about kind of the brain and the brain protecting us and things like this. What does emotional intelligence have to do with our success or our failures?
Again, I live and die in the world of what the Army called soft skills. Years ago, they came up with that term. And I think they're going to change that, by the way, because it's ridiculous. Emotional intelligence, communication, problem solving, leadership, those are not soft skills. Those are essential, critical skills to be successful. I've got friends in technology and engineering, and they came up the ladder in that. And what they uncovered was eventually many of them became leaders. It's not about engineering or technology anymore. It's about people. And the books didn't teach them that. So to me, emotional intelligence is this. It is absolutely unequivocally understanding yourself, being self-aware of your emotions, your feelings, what's going on in that situation. Critically, point number 2, though, is it is also being able to understand and see the person you're communicating with and understanding their feelings, their emotions, and what's going on both sides of the equation. I think emotional intelligence, when people look at both sides of it, meaning themselves and the other person, because I might be, let's say I'm in a really good spot emotionally. I'm confident, I'm feeling good. I'm in a topic that I'm really good at, knowledgeable on. And then I'm across from somebody who, for lack of a better word, is emotionally, and I don't mean in a disrespectful way, but they're not stable at this moment emotionally. What I mean by is they're hijacked. Something else has really got them. It could be they just got a call maybe 5 minutes ago that something happened to one of the kids.
Right.
There could be many things why. So when I say unstable, I don't mean in a disrespectful. I mean just something is overpowering them at this moment. You gotta, emotionally intelligent people can control themselves, and they also can identify when others people. That's how I look at emotional intelligence in Pygon 1 and the Win the 16 world, is both sides of understanding what's going on for either of them.
Dave, what are some simple, like easy to do everyday habits that people who are listening to you speak, that are watching you on this podcast, what are some everyday, maybe simple things that they can do to help with the emotional intelligence, to help with the negative self-talk and the self-doubt? What are some things that they could do?
I'm going to start off with one, which was when I led teams, it was a weakness for me for sure,
Okay.
especially early on in my career, is sympathy versus empathy.
Okay, explain.
Sympathy is letting you off the hook. Crystal, I know you've got 3 kids, your wife, you're running your businesses, you're podcasting. Yeah, I can see why you didn't get that done. I mean, you got like so many things on, and time is not on your side. I totally understand. I was very sympathetic to you. I just let you off the hook.
Yes.
Okay. So if we're raising kids or we're leading a team, and I don't mean they're the same. I don't want to be disrespecting anybody. I'm just using those as 2 thoughts for everyone who's listening. Or I'm a teacher in a classroom. Is empathy is, Crystal, I understand what's going on, and I get it. You got a lot. And we could go through the list of everything you got going on. Total respect for everything. With that said, how do you think you get this done?
Wow.
What does that
So
look?
there's still the accountability piece.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
And I wasn't good at that. I did, I think, a B-Dubs down in Kentucky, amazing leader, or excuse me, amazing individual contributor. And I remember, empathy is a thing for you, Dave. You got to work at that. One of my employees. And they're right. Because what I would do is sometimes I would be sympathetic, or if I wasn't sympathetic, I would bypass the empathy.
How do people know which one to give out? Which one to give out? Do I give out the sympathy in this moment? Do I give out the empathy in this moment? How do you know which one?
I think once you know I'm going old school now. I'm back in because nobody reads a dictionary anymore, but the Webster's dictionary, or nowadays you just Google or ChatGPT, is if you really just look up the definition between sympathy and empathy, which I have, and I have it in my curriculum. Once you know the difference, example, you're one of the kid's 4 years old, they fall down, they scrape the knee, and they're hurting, they're crying. That's total sympathy.
Yes.
That's a totally different. That's sympathy. Empathy is somebody doesn't do something, but they need to. Child's overwhelmed, got a lot of tests on Tuesday, and it's Monday. Come home from school. I'm going to be empathetic with them, but I cannot be sympathetic. Just because I can't let them off the hook. I can't, as the leader in the house and as dad, I've got to be, hey, I got it. Tell me more about these classes. Oh, yes, you got Mr. Jones. I know, tough. Yep, I'm with you. So how are you going to attack all of these? How are you going to prioritize? What does that look like? What does tonight look like for you? How can I help?
Okay, so let's talk about helping people become the best versions of themselves. How do you suggest that people balance contentment, like I'm okay with where I am, and ambition?
Yes. So there's so much into that one. You're doing a ball of yarn, and although you get strung is all around, we really have to unwind that. But for this podcast, what I'd say, are people, they have to ask themselves, because anyone in our lives, if they're content, there's very little you and I are going to do about that. They're going to have to get up at some point and say, I want more. Now, if I was talking to somebody where I wanted an influence, I'd ask them probably simple questions of what makes you happy with your current situation. professionally or personally?
That's a good question.
What do you get? What are you getting joy out of? What are you not getting joy out of? It's interesting. I'm 55. I don't know if I'll ever retire. Most people in my inner circle probably say, yeah, I won't, because I love what I do and I just like being involved. Some people in my time frame, they're counting down the days to the end line. And
Wow.
the end line is different than other people's. Some people's end line is not everybody, but some is retirement. I'm going to retire. That's my end line. To me, my end line is I'm a Chicago Southside Catholic. When God calls me and I'm no longer living here, that's my end line.
Okay.
Now, until then, like I want to do different things. I want to be a difference maker. I want to learn things. I want to progress. I want to be happy. And to me, contentment, just the same things over and over, that doesn't get me there. But that doesn't mean that's not good for other people. That might be good for them. They might be happy in that area. That's why I would ask the questions first. So anyone listening, if you're by yourself and you're wondering, hey, am I content? Am I in my world of comfort zone? I would ask that question. Am I living a life where I'm just doing everything I'm really good at and I know very well? Yes. Does that make me happy, or does that just make me comfortable? Those are two different things.
Right.
Those are two different things.
Being
comfortable doesn't necessarily mean I'm super happy. I get happiness out of doing things that I wasn't sure I could do, and then I do them. And even if it's not as good as you're doing them, because I'm not really comparing, but I did it, I feel accomplished. I feel good about myself. Because most people in life, just a general comment, Crystal, for my leaders who are listening out there, most people want to be happy and successful.
Yes.
Whatever it is, whatever they're doing, working for a non-for-profit, small business, whatever it is, they want to be happy and they want to be successful. So the question is, what characteristics and what habits go down and will help them be happy and help them be successful?
And I would add to that, Dave, that whenever you stretch yourself outside of your comfort box, even though there's challenges there, there's pain there, there's discomfort there, when you accomplish it, there's so much joy and happiness and success there just on the other side, if you could just get there.
Yes, and that's where the inner circle is so critical.
Yes.
Help people on that, because they just don't see it. Again, I'm writing a new curriculum now on beliefs, and I'm really into it now because of all the readings, studying I'm doing on it. Is part of our challenge is our beliefs are our past experiences. So if we get something in the world of technology and it's our past experience has been, it's nothing but a struggle, I hate it, it's horrible, I don't want to learn it, you can see why if they do it, they're kicking and screaming, or they just won't. So they need something to say, okay, that's the past, I'm going to put the past forward and I'm going to move forward. So why would I even consider this? Well, everyone right now is saying ChatGPT is making their life easier and more efficient. I don't really get that. I need to learn. So I need to be curious first before I dive into it. Why is it making your life easier? Why do I need to learn this? And like, well, you remember the other day and you wrote that letter to me or that note on that professional? It was really bad. It wasn't well thought out. Your participles were dangling. If you would type that into ChatGPT, it would have kicked out something probably better. Now, you got to read it because it's not perfect.
Right.
But your work would have been better. And it wouldn't have cost you any more time. You just sort of typed it into that. Do you think that would be of an interest? Why you might want to learn it? And then they'll probably go, what do you mean my work was? Well, you had 5 participles dangling. Your sentences were run on. You misspelled 2 words. I think we both agree you're better than that. And technology would have helped you. And once you learn it, it doesn't cost you any more time.
Correct. I'll tell you, Dave, and then I'll get to my next question. One of the things that I do to like push past like the negative thoughts or the self-doubt, which I don't have too much at this point in my life, but that's come with a lot of work and a lot of time, is I'm a Christian. So my pastor said this years ago. He was like, I don't want to die. Go see Jesus. And Jesus showed me this is all the things you could have had that was just waiting on you if you would have just tried, if you would have just attempted it. But this is the few things that you got that you were comfortable in. So I always have that thought, and I always have that visual because it's so visually powerful that look at all the stuff that I could have had and I could have done if I just would have pushed past the self-doubt, if I would have pushed past the pain and the challenges and just give it a try.
Love that. Love your pastor. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So when you do that and you try it, how do you feel afterwards?
I always feel great. Now, the process of me trying, I'm just going to be honest here, Dave. It's challenging. It's can I do this? It's maybe I should give up. I don't like where this is headed. Like you still have those thoughts, but you have to be strong enough mentally, which you've spoken about, and emotionally to just keep going, just keep showing up day after day.
It was a loaded question, right? That dopamine, that motivation part of our brain, where it feels. I always say, I've never met anybody who when they go to the gym to work out, when they don't really want to go, and then when they come out of there, they say, "Oh, I shouldn't have went." Nobody says that.
Right.
They feel good.
Yes.
The dopamine kicks in. See, I always talk about a lot of the reasons why I'll do some of these things that are challenging, hard, or whatever is, trust me, I bleed just like you do. I get frustrated. I said, but what I've come to realize about myself is the end game of whatever that is. I'm addicted to dopamine. I love that feeling of accomplishment. It's even funny. I'm not really handy at all. Let me rephrase. I'm not handy. My wife's way more handy than I am. But I did something minor. I was so proud. All this hair was backed up in the tub, and you couldn't get this screw out. So I had to go to the Home Depot, get this specific piece of equipment to dislodge this. It took 5 minutes. An average normal handy person would have done in 2 seconds. I was so proud of myself.
Yes.
So proud.
And you should have been, Dave.
Yeah, so proud. And I kid around. I'm like, "Oh, you need a handyman? I'm here." And she just rolls. She's like, "I don't let you touch stuff that you should not be touching. You'll kill yourself and you'll ruin whatever we're trying to fix here."
But she definitely let you have that moment. So
it was. There was nothing you could break on this at all, really.
Right.
Because it was already broken. But it was that. So people who like that feeling, I would just tell them, think about anything in your lives where you did something that was, challenging. And when I was talking, I'm not talking about doing an Ironman or writing a book or your job. I'm just talking about the day-to-day little stuff. Like, here's a good example. For the people that I think most people in the world now, general comment, no, we need to drink water. It's good for us. Depending on what data you want to look, I've read where when we wake up in the morning, we're dehydrated anywhere between 12 and 32 ounces of water when we wake up. Whatever number you want to you do you. But we know we're dehydrated already to start our day, 12 ounces to 32, we're starting in a deficit. We should probably have 12 to 16 ounces right at our bed, which I do every morning. That's the first thing I do in the morning is I drink my water before I'm even out of bed. I'm already on my way to making sure I get my 100 to 130 ounces of water, depending on what I'm doing working out wise, because then I need more because I'm losing more. But things like that, I always tell people, if you don't, then you're buying into it. It's good for us. It gets our system, it wakes up our system. It's good for our body. If you buy into that conceptually, do it for 23 straight days.
Wow.
And then and when I say that, don't be mad at the Win the 16 guy. But I said 23. I didn't say 22.
Yes.
So if you come back and you're like, I did 22 out of 23, I'll say, okay, I appreciate you doing that. But we said 23 out of 23.
Yes.
That's the goal. It was to take it A through Z. You were in total control. What our goal, you were in control of. There was not any variable in there unless somehow the water went out in your house and you didn't prepare and have your 24 bottles of water in the house already. Total control. Same thing for people who want to get a little healthier. I'm like, hey, start with the water first.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to maybe taking a 10-minute walk every day. And if
Yeah.
it's raining the entire day that day in Texas, put your galoshes on, put your umbrella, just like when we were kids. We walked to school in the rain. It didn't matter.
Yes.
We got there. We survived.
And we live to tell the story.
And we made it. But I'm telling you, if you come and tell your inner circle or your friend, whoever's an important part of your life, says, I walked every day for 23 straight days, and I'm not giving it up. It's now a habit. I love doing it, and I feel good. I feel like I'm starting my day off.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would tell people. Create some small habits, and they will change your life, because eventually what you'll find is these small habits will then start getting incorporated into bigger things.
Yes.
That's
Yes. I love it. Yes. Small and doable.
Yep.
Small and
It's your
doable.
race. That's why I said it's you. I think the original question you asked me, what is stopping people from growth or getting out of their comfort zone? And then I said, don't be mad at me, to go full circle with our talk today, is the only people stopping is yourself. That
Yes.
6 ounce of water, we know it's good for you. Why isn't it by your bed?
Right.
And
Right.
trust me, I don't really care. You do you. So when I ask that, the answer is you just don't care enough.
We just don't
That's it.
care enough.
Just fine. That's your thing, but you just don't care enough about that, or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm. Which
Right?
goes back to the mind shift. What we were talking about earlier, it goes back to the mind shift.
Yep.
Okay, so Dave Pygon, you are an actual author. Congratulations to you. I
Thank
mean,
you.
this I think is amazing that you were able to sit down, gather your thoughts, and actually write a book and get it published. It's on Amazon, which I feel like everything is on Amazon,
Yes,
but you are an author. So tell us about your book, Win the 16.
Um, and I think I said earlier, I'm not big into self-deprecating. So when I say this, I don't mean it in that frame. But I will just tell anybody out there, if anyone wanted to write a book or put their thoughts, anything, and get it out there, you can do it. You can do it. It takes work. It's frustrating. It's hard. You have to do a lot of reading. But Mark Twain said it best: write what you know.
Hmm.
J.K. Rowling said, what's great about writing a book is you have to read a ton, so you learn a lot. And she's a huge reader, obviously.
Yes.
So the book, Win the 16, Principles and Strategies Optimize Your Day, it's really how my mom lived her life and still does. She raised 3 boys on her own. She had to be efficient. She had to be effective. She had to raise 3 boys on the South Side, so she had to be mentally tough. She had to create the habits to live her life of being healthy and exercising, and at night going to school while she was working in the day. And I didn't realize it growing up, but I was an apprentice to her. And that's kind of just how I followed, of being efficient, being effective. I never really liked to waste time. Maybe when I was younger, you said I have ants in my pants.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge. I don't know if that still goes or is still used in the world today, but ants in the pants is the kid or the adult who doesn't sit still. That was kind of me, up early, ready to go, waiting for my brothers to get up so we could start playing and doing things. And that's what I wrote about, not ants in my pants, but I wrote about mental toughness, mindset, discipline, habits. Motivation and inspiration are incredible. And I love when I have both of them. The problem is we're not always motivated every day. So that's why the habits we create are critical, as well as the habits that we need to delete to get to where we want to go. People ask me, what about goals? Goals are in the book. But I even talk about a goal that I made a bad goal earlier on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fine, but it wasn't well thought out. It wasn't deep. It was very superficial and, at the surface level. I should have dug in deeper, deeper, deeper on my goal. Goals are great. The problem is most people don't, or excuse me, some people don't hit them, especially January 1st resolutions, because they don't create the habits or delete the habits that are going to get them to reach those goals.
Yes.
Don't do it. Just be honest. It's never going to happen, and that's okay. but you need to create the habits. I ask people as soon as they say, oh, this is my goal there. I'm like, great, Crystal, that's awesome. Good for you. Can I ask you a question? Yeah, of course. Okay, what habits did you create or delete so you actually will hit this goal?
Mm-hmm.
All ears.
What would you say, Dave, is the biggest lesson you took away from writing your book, Win the 16?
Ooh, the biggest lesson. There's so many learning lessons in it.
Okay.
Perseverance, patience, discipline, learning to spend a tremendous amount of time by yourself with social media turned off, internet turned off, phone turned off for 3 hours at a time. And I say that, but most people do not shut off from the world for 3 hours.
No.
Comment, general comment. Uh, I learned when you do shut yourself off from the world, guess what? Everything's still fine.
Yes. You're still alive. Yes.
Everything's totally fine. And I learned from writing the book that I read 23 books in preparation for the book.
Wow.
Read and learn. It seems like a lot, but I'm sure other people read way more. My lesson was, boy, just reading, you just learn so much that you never would have known. And what does that have to do with anything? I will tell you, having a growth mindset and being a learner. Carol Dweck in Stanford is the guru of that. I kind of say she's the godmother of my brother and I always talk about her and the growth mindset of being a learner. I think it was the 70s when she really started this concept and made it pretty much just well known how this growth mindset is. Growth mindset not only helps to be a learner and be curious, so we get smarter and we're able to do things potentially better or maybe stop doing some things, right? Here's the other thing I motivate people when I talk about putting your arms on being a growth mindset and learner. You know what the other thing it does for us is, does anyone have an Uncle Joe or somebody in their lives at the holidays they see one time a year?
Mm-hmm.
Same conversation and
Yes.
you're bored out of your mind?
Yes.
Yeah, we all do. Maybe
We all do.
it's the same thing. You're like, oh God, how long do I have to sit here to be polite and sit through this painful conversation where it's the same thing? What I find with people that are truly authentic, growth mindset and learners and curious, like my brother, for one example, every time you talk to them, I don't want to say it's necessarily new, but they just have a lot of knowledge. They know a lot of stuff.
They do.
I find them so interesting. So I always tell people out there is, if you want to be more interesting with your clients or your employees or your boss, you're not only being a growth mindset learner to help yourself with learning more and being better, but you'll find other people will like you even more because when they talk to you. Now, I didn't say be a know-it-all. That's not what I was saying. But when just organically certain things come up, you now probably have a base because you have such a vast learning and knowledge of reading Wall Street Journal and all these different things that you can jump into these conversations and really bring value. And people are attracted to that, generally speaking. It's a very attractive quality.
I will say, Dave, that when I was growing up, and I don't know if you heard it when you were growing up, but when I was growing up, people would always say, curiosity killed the cat, as if being curious is a bad thing.
Yeah.
But being curious is such a good thing. It really, allows for the education. It allows for conversations and meeting people and really listening to Uncle Joe at the holidays and taking something from his stories and the conversations that he has. So curiosity is a good thing. It no longer kills the cat.
I love that. I saw something recently. It was from the television show Ted Lasso.
Okay.
And he's a coach, kind of an underdog coach, never coached
Mm-hmm.
before. He's now coaching soccer, and he's in this. The owner of this other team was kind of a jerk. And long story short, he goes, I was overlooked in my entire life always. And the people that were overlooking me, and even some of the people that picked on me, I realized they were judging. They were very judgmental. They were not curious. They never wanted to learn about me or know anything about me. They were always judging me. And then he now goes in the scene and throws darts into a dartboard and he basically hits the middle. Every spot he wants to throw it to, his dart goes there. And he goes, if somebody was curious, because at this point he's playing darts with this owner of this other team, arrogant guy, billionaire, kind of a jerk, for lack of a better word. And he goes, if you were curious and not judgmental, you probably would have asked me if I ever played darts. And I would have said to you, yes. I grew up playing darts with my father in a bar until I was 16 years old. We played darts every weekend. And you would have known I am a very good dart player. And he goes on and kicks this guy's ass.
Wow. I love it.
You weren't curious. You thought you were just going to push him, kick my fanny.
Yes.
It was very judgmental. If you were curious, you might not be in this position right now. The whole bar is going crazy because he's going bam, bam. And everyone is going dead center exactly where he wants it. And this guy just puts his head down. So I thought it was a really good story. So everybody, takeaway in that. If you got a choice between being judgmental or being curious, act like 5-year-olds in this regard. They ask 100,000 questions.
They do.
They drove us crazy at times. And you know what? We probably should steal that from them at times, of asking questions and being curious like 5-year-olds.
We definitely need to learn that from the 5-year-olds. Okay, Dave, I have 2 more questions from you.
Okay.
For you, how does your book, Win the 16, help people get out of procrastination?
Oh, I think one, it's got a motivating, inspiring feel throughout it, because the whole book is about skills that you can improve and you can get better if you choose. The whole book is, I'm your neighbor. I could be your guy next door. So what I'm talking about, anybody can do it. This is not being written by the famous Tom Brady. This is not being written by a lieutenant or a general in the Army. This is being written by a guy who's a Southside Chicago Catholic, who's no different than you, no better than you. And the principles that I talk about and I use here, you can too. And the key I say in the book is, you be you. My challenge is this. I'm not asking you to do what I'm doing. I'm saying, now that you hear it, hopefully ideate you and get you to think of, well, I want to do this, or I need to use this skill in my way. And your barometer and your competition is yourself. So small steps. And that, through the whole book, it says small steps, simple, 12 ounces of water. You want to start on your health? You really haven't been focusing on it? 12 ounces of water. First thing in the morning. Just do that.
Small. For 23 days. Remember, 23 days.
I always give obscure days. Sometimes I go to people 32 days. Yeah. I never give 1 week or 1 month. I always give people like numbers that are a little bit obscure and different. 37 days. So I think that's what they'll get out of it, is they'll get that I can do it. This is for the average Joe out there, but I call myself the average Dave.
Yes. Okay, average Dave. The last question for you. What is your intention in this space of Win the 16, of helping people become better versions of themselves?
My intention is simply this. My purpose is to be a differentiator, be a difference maker for people and organizations and people. Why? Because I get a huge dopamine rush and I love it. It's phenomenal. So that's my purpose, my why. So my desire and what I am doing is, when I am supporting these people in these different areas and connecting dots and giving not just inspiration and motivation, but actually the skills and the steps. In many of my things I do is, here are 10 steps to be a good problem solver.
Yes.
I'd be knocking out of the park in 8 of them. 9, you just don't do as much, and 10 you never heard of. Awesome. Great. Do they make sense? Can you do that? Yeah, that's easy. I never thought about it. Awesome. Do that. And that'll help you. So my hope, and it's not even hope anymore, to tell you the truth, is when my clients hire me, whether it's in groups of 4 or I'm speaking in front of hundreds of people, or if I'm doing one-on-one training and coaching, is these things are not novel. What I'm doing is I'm bringing and serving up a little bit of a different way with a little bit more meat behind them, so people can put their arms around it, and now they know the how. Here are all the different mindsets that are out there. Okay. Do you see when you might need to use one versus the other? Because I'm not saying, again, we talked about this earlier, it's not about just being positive all the time. Like, that's crazy. Like, bad news happens, you're going to walk
Yeah.
around smiling. I mean,
And it's impossible to be positive all the time.
and it's unauthentic. It's not authentic. Your
Yeah.
employees or your family will think you're goofy.
Yeah.
So that's the desire. There's nothing better than seeing people make improvements and get better problem solvers, communicator, emotional intelligence, a better leader. And we all need somebody. Like, I've got people helping me. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Dave. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I appreciate you so much. And to my audience, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get Dave's podcast on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.